Hi guys, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Nuggets News. Well, another action-packed episode. We've got so much macro news and crypto news to get through. I'm going to get through it all as quickly as I can. I certainly try and respect your time, and these Sunday night episodes are all fully time-stamped, normally within a few hours, if not the following morning, for those of you that just want to skip through to your favorite parts. But honestly, it all ties together. Those of you that have been with us on this journey for a number of years now are starting to see exactly why I've been covering both ends of the spectrum, because they're just overlapping so much these days. So we welcome a few hundred subscribers again this week, some fantastic interviews. I'm going to talk about all that as we go through the episode, but particularly the monthly update with Martin North. That is a real deep dive into Australia and the budget that got handed down, and a couple of bits of housekeeping. So look, we have decided not to run any ads because of all the scams that were going on YouTube. Now, funnily enough, Aussie Dick Smith is threatening to sue because of another Bitcoin scam ads, but they're just everywhere these days, guys. So you have to be so careful. When you've got your friends or family that are just getting started in this space, please send them over to our website for all that education. It's all free to learn about how to avoid those scams in particular. Now, finally, the big bit of good news you've all been waiting for. This week, our website is going to be down for maintenance as we've got one of the final big upgrades before we launch that new platform that some of you have been hanging out for months. And I know it sucks that it's taken time, but that's COVID, working from home. We didn't expect to have 4,000 members. We're only at 1,200, 1,500 at the start of the year. So it's been a matter of upstaffing, absolutely, snowed constantly with emails and support staff and questions from people. So look, I'm doing my best. I'm hiring as many people as I can. Every dollar goes back into growing this business because I believe we're in a growing industry and I want to build something special for everyone longer term. So look, this month we did welcome aboard DLC Blogger with all his NFT and gaming updates as well. He's been a fantastic addition to our community. Welcome to Abigail as well, executive assistant. And I haven't even been to our office yet in Melbourne. So hopefully once the borders are open, you'll get to meet all the team. And look, plenty more. I won't give too much away, but other than that, just keep an eye on all our socials. Make sure you're following them because we've got a lot of very cool surprises coming your way. Another one off my bucket list, I guess. So plenty of you know that Peak Prosperity are one of my favorite channels, and I got an email from them after I did this episode with them. So this is a Bitcoin 101. I hate that term expert, but that's what they've gone with anyway. So they said, this has only got 5,000 episode views in the first 24 hours. It's just so unusual for us. And sure enough, you can see on all the data and the metrics that YouTube are shadow banning these types of videos. If they don't like some words that are in the title of certain channels that have got lots of subscribers, they just don't show it to you guys. So look, even if you've got subscribe, hit, notification bell on, all those settings, sometimes YouTube just still doesn't show you the video. And now I've turned off ads as well. It really doesn't like me or my channel because I'm not making any money for them. So look, you do have to go looking for our videos. I can't thank you enough if you're sharing them with friends and family, smashing that like, leaving a comment. That stuff all really helps. But that is enough of that. One thing I will just mention finally before we dive into the local news was I think this is a historical week. So a lot of you are only here for the macro news or the housing updates or whatever it is, and you don't believe in crypto still. We are getting to a point where you can't ignore it anymore. Governments are talking about stable coins. Some of the biggest companies in the world are now buying hundreds of millions of dollars of Bitcoin instead of sitting in US dollars, the world reserve currency. That is a just enormous statement. Now, this was my list from Friday night. There's already more companies that I wasn't even aware of, and these are publicly traded companies. If you go to just private companies, the list is obviously far, far bigger again. But this is really significant. Nobody wanted to be first. Now we've got a few. I think the ball is just going to start rolling. It is going to snowball. And these guys already own 5% of the total supply of Bitcoin. Everyone got excited the other day when Warren Buffett bought some gold, and he bought like 0.0005% in terms of the money that he allocated in the market cap of gold. So I do think we are going a lot higher in the coming years. But let's get into the local news. So The budget was all about bringing forward those tax cuts. Again, that is great news for a lot of you. Some of you are going to get a big chunk, a couple of $1,000s more. That is going to be taken from last financial year as a bit of a benefit when you get to June 30 this year. But a lot of those people that are on all the benefits didn't get anything. And so once again, you can kind of make that argument that it's the top end of town, these politicians that have got a few more $1,000s to spend, and the people that are struggling to get by, they're the people that actually spend the money straight away. Anything that you give them, that stimulates the economy from the grassroots level as opposed to the wealthy. But look, I'm not going to get into it. As I said, check out the video that Martin and I did. We really broke down the budget, how Australia is going to be $1 trillion in debt in the next couple of years, whether or not that's a good or bad thing. Former RBA boss warns that low rates haven't done any good. This was that fantastic interview Martin and I spoke about with Ian McFarlane on the Jolly Swagman podcast. I'm going to have my mate back on, Joseph Walker, who's the host of that, hopefully this week. And we're going to talk all about some of these guests that he's been having on. And I don't know how he lands those big names, but hey, I'd love to talk to the former RBA boss as well. Another cool article here just about how slow the RBA move, and they're really behind the curve now, I think. They're definitely going to have to cut rates, but again, does it matter when you cut interest rates from 0.25 to 0.1? Does anyone really change their behavior? The Reserve Bank leaked emails basically show that they were really concerned about what is going on, and like all central banks, they're kind of trying to twist the government's arm and tell them to do more because they're basically out of ammo. Now, one of the housing bulls that's at the opposite end of the spectrum to Martin North, as you guys like to remind me in the comments, this is Chris Joy, and he's sticking to his forecast that we've had that 5% downturn, and now he thinks the housing market is off to the races again. I think that certainly depends on the areas, and you guys know I like to joke about how bullish I am on Tassie, but I think it depends on the QE. If we go down that path like America and Europe of just cutting rates to zero or negative and printing money, guess what? All assets are going to keep going up in a bubble. Like it or hate it, do something about it would be my message, and that's, I guess, what our education is all about. The Reserve Bank are in a parallel universe. It was only, 2 years ago, 18 months ago, they were talking about raising rates. And then 6 months ago, they were saying, we'll never go to 0% or negative interest rates are not possible. And that, just wrong at every turn. And that is basically what Ian McFarlane confirmed for us all in this podcast. So please give that a listen if you haven't already. Just one stat that I did want to show you that I think is a standout from that video Martin and I did was this net migration and how reliant we are compared to countries all around the globe, and that percent migration that we have come in. Normally, hundreds of thousands of people, and that is negative for the first time. So I can't see how we can have that bullish housing market if this is the case, but I'd love to chat with Chris Joy if he thinks I'm wrong about that. So our friends over the sea there in China, apparently their economy is moving well again. We've got 500 million trips. So we can track all the movement over there, and a lot of people are getting out and about, that local tourism, and the numbers, whether or not you believe them, tell us that China's doing okay. As opposed to some of these other countries where it kind of feels like it's not really there anymore because the media is not talking about it as much. But these are still pretty big numbers, and yeah, we're doing a lot of testing, but it's still significant. So you guys know where I kind of sit with all this now, that I believe we are starting to get enough evidence that there's a big cohort of people that this isn't as dangerous for as we first thought. That's probably the best way I can put it. And these things that I was talking about, obviously people that are overweight, diabetes, smoking, these sort of things can put you at further risk, but there's also a genetic component. That's what I do believe we're going to find out. And that's what is hopefully going to explain how some really healthy or young people are still getting it as well. So look, I hope once we have all that data, we can put it forward. The doctors can be very loud, vocal, and say, hey, now we need to open up our economy, because the mental health side of things and all that other unintended consequences is now the big issue. So this is the Great Barrington Declaration. Basically, what I just summarized there, and this is kind of hidden. You won't find this when you search it on Google or whatnot. And this is just another example of the importance of decentralization, because these big tech giants are just deciding what gets heard and what doesn't, who gets tracked and who doesn't with all that data. And now this is the big, tinfoil hat stuff 10, 20 years ago about everyone having a chip. And now there's talk about having that, whether it's for COVID or for just your protection and tracking, who knows. And business leaders are saying that you have to have one to get a job. There's a movie called Gattaca. If you haven't seen that, check that out as well. But these are the things that I guess I'll be standing up for and fighting against over the years, as hopefully we grow in terms of our voice. I really love what Joe Rogan is doing. That's, I guess, where I'd love to see Nuggets News go in the coming years. Now, with everyone focused on all these other things, the Earn It bill is looking like it could get through here in the US. This is basically similar to what we had in Australia, where kind of breaking encryption. So I don't know how you break math, but anyway, basically this is not good news for anyone that's in the tech world. So I hope this doesn't get through. I hope that this gets more coverage, but are 90% of people zombies or sheeple, whatever you want to call it, that just really don't even care about all this stuff. And I hope that's not the world we do go into. So the White House, they've curbed on these Chinese payment apps, posing a risk to Ant Financial. There's no love lost between these two as the tit for tat continues. So China says US TikTok, WeChat bans break the World Trade Organization rules. They've got a lot to talk about. And in this world of digital payments, we're going to get to all that stablecoin news as well. But just, everyone from Venmo going digital with their digital credit card and smartphones, it's just there's such a huge overlap these days. Now, obviously last Sunday night or Monday morning in Australia, Trump came out and he did his speech 20 minutes before markets open. This is just going to make the best movie. It's all so scripted one day, isn't it? But whether or not he was that bad in the first place, or there is that many theories out there, I'll let you guys decide which one you want to believe. But he's doing all he can to talk up markets, and all week it was about whether or not they're going to pass that stimulus. And just like there's tit for tat between China and the US, there's tit for tat between the two parties, and that is what's just doing my head in when there's people's lives at stake. So look, Trump's demanding and trying to maybe deflect, China pay a big price and blaming them. Obviously, there's other things at play, like the yuan surging the most in 15 years. Maybe it's this pro-China pivot by President Biden. Maybe it's just the fact that their economy is maybe going better relatively. Remember, it's all the cleanest dirty shirt in the laundry. And this is the inverse here. You can see the US currency losing strength against the yuan. US imposes new sanctions on Iran, and this is spooking those European banks who have been lending for certain things like the oil companies. There's always a connection. So you're always kind of treading on someone's toes at the moment because of those different relationships. And Venezuela, we know the story there as well. 71 tons of paper. They've run out of paper to print banknotes on. I'm kind of speechless when I read these titles. Anyway, let's push on forward. So, euro inflation still negative there. They're talking about more stimulus. It's going to be needed, and urging. And they're in a different boat because the governments there don't have their own currency. Like in Australia, the government can spend those Aussie dollars. In the US, the same story. Greece and Italy, they just can't go out and spend as many euros as they want. This is why I just think in the current environment we're in, we are going to see a lot more fracturing in Europe going forward. This is the global and regional growth. You can see here, since the GFC, a lot of it has been negative. The great stagflation. So these are kind of real numbers rather than a lot of the sort of BS that we get. And I think that we are just now at the stage where we're fighting the natural forces and the demographics, and it's just unrealistic to grow with the levels of debt that we've got around the world. So look, US Treasury pushing for more stimulus, China debt participation, another big IMF meeting. I'm sure we're going to see a war of words come from that as well. But here's all the different headlines we got from the US this week. Buckle up for this. So Mitch McConnell saying coronavirus stimulus package is unlikely in the next 3 weeks. Now, if we don't get that, the way that the election works and then the break over summer in Australia, winter over there, it's probably not till February until anything's going to get passed unless we get some of those emergency relief packages. So that is 6 months for these people, that a lot of them that are going hungry or don't have a roof over their head if their home gets foreclosed. So it's no longer hints, it's really like begging now. So Fed Chair Powell calling for more help from Congress, says there's basically, low to no risk of overdoing it. Spend as much as you want and you couldn't spend too much. Millions of new jobs will be created if governments just spend more, says the IMF. So obviously all these sort of banks love when anything to do with more debt and keeping that the Ponzi house of cards going. And now Trump's kind of flip-flopped again. It's all about, bigger is better now. So he's saying that he wants, I think the latest is, I think Trump's now saying that he's happy to go. Was it 1.8 or 2.2 trillion? 1.8. So that splitting of hairs, like I was talking about last week, the gap's just narrowed, but they still just can't agree. I really hope that this gets through, because otherwise it's going to get ugly again. This is the most dovish Fed in history. They're on a mission to spur inflation, and they're going to tolerate those increases in price. Well, that's all well and good for them, isn't it? It's no good for you if you're not getting any wage growth and your cost of living's going up. So this is the Fed's Evans saying that more QE is coming if the road to recovery slows. Top Fed economists talking about much more QE is needed to offset this zero bound. So as we know, they didn't even get back into the positive in some places in Europe. So they can't cut rates 5%. They've got to do enormous amounts of QE. They're telling you what's going to happen. And this is just so bullish for metals and for crypto. So long term, we're starting to see those treasury yields rise as this inflation is starting to get priced in, and investors sort of rotate their capital to things that are going to be going up in price if we get inflation. So this is a bit of a nightmare scenario here, as some of the legendary investors are warning. Would be a game changer. Jim Bianco, that was another good interview. I know a lot of you follow Jim. And all over the globe, we're seeing similar things now where maybe it's the shortages of food because of some supply chains, but the World Food Price Index, 5% year on year. So when people don't have enough money, it's often these takeaways that become cheaper. And McDonald's had their best quarter in, was it a decade or something? Anyway, record sales. So that just shows you where people are going. And then it's this vicious cycle of, bad health, bad mental health when you've lost your job, and we just get trapped. And that's kind of the way that Western society have really molded things these days. 60 million US households expect to lose income losses this month. This is all about whether or not we get those extensions, just like in Australia, I guess, as well. Weekly jobless claims have ticked up again, so a little bit higher than those estimates, 884,000. Here we see the permanent unemployment, and it's rapidly rising. So this a lot steeper than previous recessions like the GFC and the dot-com bubble. And we can see that it takes maybe a year or two to peak often, and that's why we're still going up here. But then, 5, 6, 7 years to get back to where it was. And that's why in Australia they're talking about 4 years. Maybe that is a little bit ambitious these days. So this is why every month matters, or 6 months in the US. You are crazy if you can try and get this, the jobs getting back to where it was and mean reverting. Why would you risk trying to get it higher and then it's going to take years and years to get back down? It's very hard to save those jobs and businesses once they go bankrupt. So US consumer borrowing falls, people paying down their credit card balances there. The US consumer is still going okay compared to the rest of the world. And these are the households that can expect a tax increase under Biden's plan. And it's a lot for the top end of town. So in America, they're really getting up there towards 30, 39, 37%. they've got a lot lower tax rates than in Australia, where we high income earners pay almost 50 cents on the dollar. So years of low interest rates have made the current economic crisis worse. Yes, we're starting to realize that. Negative returns now in the mortgage market as well. So this is where the Fed are going to have to step in and start to buy those mortgage-backed securities, particularly in the commercial market here. So these are some of the hotels, the big chains. They're all in that commercial real estate. They've issued a lot of bonds, and some of the top bids for these securities have come in at 18 cents on the dollar. So this is GFC style stuff here. Well, the scene when they're all on the phone just saying, take it for whatever price, and someone offers you 17 cents. See, 18 cents for something worth $1. I think that the Fed are kind of kidding themselves at the moment. So, Microsoft telling employees you can work from home. We've seen, cinemas, operas, Spain and landlords and private equity firms here. It's all really starting to crumble, and these are all interconnected. It's on the books of all the different banks. The condo boom turns into a glut in San Francisco. Once again, it's these bailouts and bankruptcies which have got some interesting statistics. So a lot of people have heard about Chapter 11 bankruptcies and Chapter 13. So this is kind of about, what happens when you go into default? Who are the creditors that get paid, and what happens with the assets? And because of the sort of the bailouts that's going on at the moment, we've seen that increase in 11s and collapse in the commercial Chapter 13 filings, basically because the Fed are keeping businesses on life support and not letting them pay loans. So really interesting digging into some of the data there. Now, the Fed have obviously patting themselves on the back, saying how great all their talking has been because they haven't really had to buy many of these bonds that they promised that they would buy. And that's where I think they're kidding themselves. So Kashkari's come out and said that he doesn't see these moral hazards of bailing out the airlines again. We've spoken about all the buybacks that they did. I think it was $50 billion they spent, and now they need $50 billion to stay afloat. Here we see the business liabilities and insolvency probability by their buckets. So back in 2008, here you can see these green columns. 2020 is far, far higher. And we've got a lot of these businesses that are almost certain to be insolvent if the support stops. But even the lower end of town, this is huge, hundreds of billions of dollars. So this is where I think the Fed are going to have to step in and stop pretending and talking about buying and actually start buying. Now, I want to also get you to really understand what's going on here. So JPMorgan have promised to shift their portfolio away from fossil fuels. Now, do you think they've just had a change of heart and all of a sudden they care about climate change? No. Some of these ETFs around renewables and different products and structures have been stellar performers lately. And obviously they've been early investors. They were probably buying the dip. Now they're happy. They're almost trying to pump their bags, pump their investments. And all the fossil fuel companies are at the other end of the spectrum where they're going broke. That supply chain of processing where there's different rate limiting steps with the distillants and where the jet fuel goes compared to gasoline and who can filter all that. That's just breaking down. All those companies are the ones that issued huge debts. Remember the whiteboard video I did? And so it's like JPMorgan have turned their back on them when they made a lot of money from them. Then they package up all those, those junk bonds. Then they send them to sell them to someone else. And then the shares or whatever they own, they know the Fed's going to come in and bail them out anyway, or someone's going to buy them off them. They're not going to be able to lose money on it. So every step of the way, they are making money. And it literally, I think I reported last quarter that they had made record profits at a time when everything is going bad around them. And I just think this is where people are going to start to get more and more angry about this as they learn about it. And I think even you'd probably agree that some of your friends are showing an interest in this that would have never thought that they would. Insider transaction ratios have jumped back up sharply here. So the insiders are rapidly selling again. Lloyd Blankfein, who's one of the worst actors out there. I mean, in terms of what he does in the world, not in terms of acting movies, but look, he does star in the real life documentary about the GFC, and now him of all people is talking about this free money creating a bubble, citing the SPAC market. So this is those investments where people are basically writing blank checks, and they can't even get people to accept their blank checks because there's too much money out there looking for things to invest in. Now here we can see those buybacks, and they've fallen off a cliff just recently as the Fed and policymakers clamp down on those. But this is the shock stat here. So private sector assets as a percentage of GDP, historically, even up to in the 90s here, around 2.5%, 3% of GDP. So it's more than doubled since then. And what that tells you is there's twice as many people that are, paper rich or rich with financial assets. And there's that money that would have otherwise gone into farms or, real jobs or innovations. And that is the really frustrating thing, that there's so much money in that financial world and we're just not making things in the real world anymore. Now, the Vatican have been invested in these risky derivatives. Remember the Hertz story, using donated funds. So, I mean, I was having a conversation with people last night, and talking about the people, George Pell getting off those charges. Now it's the financial world using donated funds to invest in speculative derivatives. Over in America, getting out on bail. This is why people are wearing yellow vests and taking to the streets, because they're just not happy with what's going on around them, and a lot of it goes back to the financial system. Now, in terms of the stock market, those stocks that are getting record prices or valuations, it's these cloud stock mania, and this kind of ties into my crypto thesis and narrative and all the research we've been doing around Web3 or D-Web. And this is the cloud stocks that people are investing in as well. So IBM have got this spin-off that it's come out this week, cloud and AI services. A lot of that money, I think it's like the dot-com bubble in some ways, where they've got these, everyone's expecting record future earnings and growth, but I think the crypto world's going to eat a lot of their lunch with a decentralized cloud storage and so on. So all these small caps are the cheapest they've been in 20 years. This comes down to the election, and I think if Biden gets in, look, both are going to pump the market full of stimulus in different ways, but it's kind of maybe the smaller stocks that'll do better. And look, next month, one of the things I want to do in our members video is really talk about what happened in the 2016 election and how money rotated and the panic that we saw on the actual day. So when all this is happening, we've still got market liquidity down near record lows. There's just no one in the market trading at a time when things could be rolling over. And that's why the Fed keep knocking on BlackRock's door to help them. So a lot of those funds are going into fixed income, where they can just get a nice yield at the moment. We see these different asset classes here. Once again, bonds at the top of this list, commodities, sharp increase. All of a sudden people are seeing what we're seeing in terms of that next commodity cycle that comes with inflation. And equities, look, they're not as attractive comparatively. Here we see those bond yields that our friend Raul loves to tweet about. And, are you going to park money in something that's paying 0.13% when there's all these other options out there? So is $2,000 an ounce cheap for gold? Well, if you're looking at it compared to M2 money supply, like we speak about with everything going on around us, then I would make the argument absolutely. I still think the mining stocks as well, in terms of the cash flow and the profit, if they were a tech business with that sort of sexy name and logos and advertising, and they've got CEOs on Twitter saying, hey, gold's nearly $3,000 an ounce in Australia, we're making almost $2,000 an ounce profit in cash flow margin. I just think that the gold stocks are going to get fully priced in, and we're seeing a lot of money flow into those ETFs. So yes, the Federal Reserve are gaslighting not just America, the world, with their BS. I think this is a good article talking about the second derivative effect, where it's all well and good to have that big number, and then it's great when you get a big number that bounce back. But from now on, it's these relatively small numbers that don't make good headlines. And it's almost back to normal but things aren't back to normal. So it's harder and harder to BS. This is the stock that Warren Buffett bought that I was talking about before, and that $500 million of his basically represents 1% of this company. So when we're going to talk about some of those crypto stats and how much money is going in from the Wall Street companies, everyone got so excited about Warren Buffett giving an allocation to gold, as that is exposure to an asset class he used to hate. So look, if you're going to do your research, pick the gold stocks. Otherwise, stick to the basic ETFs. I really am not a fan of the the leveraged ETFs and those things that beginners get themselves all mucked up on Robinhood. So look, GD, XJ, these are the sort of things that I'm watching that I think will perform well if we get another leg up. We're still running that promotion with eToro, guys. So $100 free Bitcoin. That link is down below, and there's a tutorial there as well for those of you that want to practice. So look, they've got no fees on the US stocks anymore. Use the tutorial, practice account, get the hang of things. I do use the platform personally for US stocks and the currencies and the ETFs, but not for crypto because the spreads are a little bit wide. All right, let's get into the crypto news. So, as I mentioned at the start, we're not running the ads anymore, but for those of you that do use Brave browser, that should be blocking all the ads anyway. Now, Brave's actually made its way to the top of the list, above Google Chrome on the Google Play Store. So, look, that is amazing. Well done to the guys there. I think it's a very, very cool project, and I hope they can keep innovating. Now, something we heard this week was that they're enabling a lot more privacy features, and you can actually browse Brave, and they've got inbuilt Tor for the dark web now as well. So, hey, maybe they're playing with fire there, being on the Google Play Store and allowing that sort of stuff. But either way, it's very cool for a lot of you out there that like that sort of thing. I did mention the Earn It Act before at the start of the episode. So guys, please spread the word about that. We do not want no privacy and no such thing as encryption going on in the online world. Now this week we had a couple of announcements from the Department of Justice talking about cracking down on crypto, and this bogus report, I think it mentioned words like crime and criminal, hundreds of times, and this just made crypto look bad. It was like we'd gone back a few years when they just say, Bitcoin, it's only used for that bad stuff. So really negative there. Department of Justice talking about privacy coins and just saying that only they are used for criminal conduct. So basically, if a business wants to use a privacy coin so that people can't see what they're doing, they're basically saying you should assume criminal conduct. And that is just not fair. Privacy is a basic human right. At least we've got Hester Peirce telling people that a conservative approach to crypto needs to change because it's very clear now that they are being left behind. Now, this week, we had the BitMEX founder and ex-CTO out on $5 million bail until their court appearance. Now, that is crazy stuff that our friend Sam Reed and, his name escapes me now, Crypto Hayes could be looking at jail time when we just reeled off all those things that the banks have been doing. Think about the big banks in Australia and everything that they've been doing over the years. And yet here we are with a crypto exchange that might have been serving some US customers looking at 5 years in jail. Again, this is the people to the streets sort of stuff. Now, McAfee, apparently he's in jail. He tweeted that he was fine. Who knows what's going on there? But he's also been fined by the SEC. These are some of the ICO payments. Now, as you guys know, we didn't go down that path of doing the paid ICO promotion. And look, a lot of YouTubers did. I'm not sure if they got paid this much, but hey, this is some pretty crazy sums of money. For us, it was always about building a business long term. And I think you've seen a lot of the YouTubers or the McAfees, and the reputation is just mud when these things go pear-shaped. So look, the crypto world, you're going to have things that fail. No one's going to be right 100% of the time. But when you're getting paid these amounts of money to promote this sort of stuff, it is just insane to think about how excited people were for the old coin of the week that became coin of the day. Now, Coinbase, in a similar culture stance here, a little bit of controversy, and I think they had 5% of employees leave because they have basically had to change their company policy and landscape. And I think a lot of what they've done recently is really bend the knee to regulators and even welcome them with open arms. And back in the day, crypto was all about kind of getting away from that and decentralization. So look, nothing criminal, but I just think that crypto's in a very interesting place at the moment, to the degree that it's going to come under full regulation, or to the degree that you can have some form of privacy on your wealth or your data in particular. Because remember, a lot of it isn't money, it's the blockchains and the data that we're trying to get back. That's just as important as the Bitcoins of the world. Now, Litecoin relaunches Mimblewimble. So is a coin like this all of a sudden going to be stamped out because it becomes private? Ethereum already has privacy. What are they going to do about that? Now, all the central banks have got together and outlined their basic framework and requirements, what they want in their central bank digital currency. So if they make these to a set of conditions or criteria that are interoperable, composable, that's going to be very interesting, because that's what the current system really lacks at the moment. Look at this list. Kazakhstan central bank suspending SWIFT payments to prevent capital outflow. So every time we've had capital controls in the past, Bitcoin takes off in that country. So that is one to watch as well. Financial giant SBI to run its first security token offering in October. So we are starting to see a lot of real estate get tokenized. Fine art as the NFT space blows up. And now this can be used as collateral in the world of DeFi. So I think that this is, multi-trillion-dollar market over the next few years. And hopefully a lot of it gets done on our favorite blockchains. The Marshall Islands have launched their new crypto, the SOV. The US losing that tech cold war to China, says Ripple co-founder. Now, Ripple have had an interesting week. So crushing regulations could drive Ripple out of the US. Now, after all these years, I thought that they were kind of all about working within the regulations and the frameworks with the banks and the businesses. So this is a really interesting move for me. And they've also kind of pivoted recently into the world of DeFi and started doing, the things like the lending and credit lines to fund these global payments. So never a dull day here in the world of payments at the moment. In Shenzhen, we've got 10 million digital yuan being given away. So, hey, there's always a price to pay. So hosing people with free money, maybe this causes a little bit of inflation, but these are the sort of things that we are going to see in the coming months as every country rolls out their government, central bank, or commercial bank currency. Some of these Italian tech giants have merged. So this was the largest two tech payment providers in the market over there, joining forces to create an $18 billion conglomerate. So the name here, was it Casa Pastroni? If you're in Italy, let me know if you've used this one. But anyway, a big merger there. In Korea, digital wons begin distribution next year. We've got the Dutch central bank approving their first crypto service. The list just keeps growing here. So British fintechs expanding their banking services to Indian customers. So this is that Kasha app. And these are the neo-friendly banks that are coming for the traditional banks. Another one here, we've got Revolut partnered with Fireblocks. So this is all about the cross-border payments, really competing with the Ripples of the world. So I hate to keep saying it, but I just feel that they've lost their chance. There's probably 100 companies that are coming for their territory now that I feel like they seem to have more announcements every week. So everyone is realizing this, whether it's CZ or other exchange CEOs, that crypto banks are going to absolutely swallow these fiat banks in the next 3 years. Stablecoin growth knocks Silvergate exchange network over 100 billion volume. So this is, I think we literally said a year or so ago that when the traditional banks start to see these numbers, they're going to say, oh, maybe we should integrate Bitcoin and stable coins because it's profitable, or it keeps them relevant. Former Morgan Stanley exec joins Gemini. we've got the Ledger wallet finally passing this official security audit. So look, if we're going to be our own banks, we do need to make sure these wallets are nice and sturdy and safe. For those of you that haven't, please check out that tutorial on our website. Get yourself a Ledger Nano X. They are way better than the S model. JPMorgan's blockchain lead is now in charge of Ethereum-based interbank information network. So again, this is just another replacement for Swift being built on Ethereum. Look at this stablecoin growth. You've heard me talk about this. I think it is going to continue to absolutely rocket. I'm sticking to $100 billion stablecoin market cap in 2021. All right, so you guys are going to love the next few bits I've got here for you. So Rootstock on top of Bitcoin, it's a sidechain, it's a smart contract layer. They've now ported the DAI stablecoin to connect and bridge the Ethereum and DeFi world. And if you've been picking up the crumbs, you'll know that this has something important to do with Red Fox. So you'll see here RSK, that is the Rootstock right there. So they are getting involved in the world of payments on Rootstock on Bitcoin. Check out their latest announcement. Watch the video that Benny did. Read that new black paper. The RFox token is becoming an ERC20 token, so it's going to be nice and easy to do all your DeFi stuff with. It's going to be on Uniswap. A lot of confusion about the token and what's going on there. I did a write-up for members this morning. It is all working in your favor. Don't get confused, but look, wait for their next announcements on what you need to do and do not panic. Okay, so the other gaming news that we've got to get through here. We've been talking about the Moon tokens. So now we've got these bricks for all the Fortnite active users, and they've started to sell these. So this is thanks to the XDAI sidechain, and I covered that in my mega DeFi tutorial the other night if you're interested about how you can sell those for real money. Now, with the rise of NFTs, pay-to-win games have got mightily expensive, and this is just another perfect bullish narrative for crypto with the micropayments and in-game currencies. Young people love this stuff. Dapper Labs has raised $80 million for this Flow blockchain with a real NFT focus. They've already got the NBA Top Shot game there as well, so money is really flowing into this space. For the projects and for the individual NFTs here. So we've got the first NFT that's sold in a proper art auction, a digital portrait, for $131,000. Now, I spoke to the 17-year-old Fuchsius. You guys love this interview. She was a legend. Yeah, check it out. Something very different. I think it was only half an hour, but I asked her some questions because I failed all my art classes. She was asking me about Bitcoin, Ethereum, NFTs. Yeah, really good. Check that out. Give her a follow. She's going to do a lot better work than I am. So this is the first concept art for the Nuggets News building that we want to do in Decentraland. This is a knockoff of my favorite Nintendo 64 console. So guys, if you want to give some input, we're really open to it. And any of the guys in our group who are developers, who are members, we're really happy for you guys to have a tinker around and experiment in Decentraland, do what you want. Now, I will be judging a upcoming NFT awards as well, so I will let you know more details about that. But yeah, a bit of an honor. So thanks for being asked to do that, I guess. And hosted by Engine. Engine have got some big news coming up as well, which we'll get to in just a second. But look, in terms of voting, if you don't want to leave it up to me, Aragon is specializing in these DAOs, and they've integrated some cool off-chain technology now because, you know, like everything with really high gas fees, we don't want to be having to pay $50 to do a vote. It's really going to put people off. So there's some great DAOs and voting mechanisms, and like everything, it is scaling. We are solving these problems. So Google Cloud does not intend to take EOS's block rewards. Now, I'm glad that they said that because there's a little Aussie block producer candidate called Eosphere, and they've been spending their own life savings to try and keep EOS going. And for them to see, a tech giant that's got hundreds of billions of dollars come in, become a block producer,
getting voted in by the community, this is, to me, it does my head in. Now, I know that there's certain use cases and it's probably good for branding and it might pump the price short term. But do we honestly want to go down that path of letting Google and then Facebook, and then Apple want to run a node, and all of a sudden you've just got 21 of the tech giants running EOS? That is not the world I want to live in. We are trying to build a decentralized internet to get away from them controlling our data. They'll stop that blockchain if there's something on there that they don't like. That's not what this is about. So, look, I know that's probably going to upset a lot of people, but there's going to be some use cases for it, but I think there's a far bigger war to win. All right, so Storage Labs, they put out their 2020 update, another Web3 project that you guys have heard me talk about a lot, decentralized file storage. With all that file storage and processing, we need it to be private. So Secret have got their secret markets. So this is front-running prevention for those automated market makers, So some of the interesting projects we've seen recently are all about the front running of the data, because people can see what's in the blockchain about to be mined into a block. And now traders are using that data to front run your trade, just like we had in the high frequency world. So once we add more and more privacy, that's going to fix that problem. General Motors and Honda are publishing their specs for a decentralized electric car charging network. So a little bit like how you see the Tesla stands scattered all around. This would be a decentralized version of that as more and more cars, electric vehicle companies go down that route. Korea, BMW are trialing this blockchain-powered rewards program. Now, this is a little breadcrumb for you. I believe that this has something to do with engine. So, look, I know IOTA have been heavily involved in the past here as well with some of these programs. Keep an eye on all of that. But it just feels almost like we're about to head into the middle stage of 2017, where there's all these projects that are having good announcements. It's going to just get that constant hype going, and hopefully they've built a real world product. So we're starting to see things like this, actually being used, actually solving problems. Very, very exciting stuff, particularly those of you that have been through that crypto winter and have been with us for a few years. Polkadot have revealed their initial parachain offering. So we're going to run out of acronyms shortly, but another way to do some crowdfunding there. There's no shortage of money in the space at the moment, and Pantera have started another fund, and they are very public that they are going heavy on DeFi. So look, was DeFi overvalued in the short term? It was more yield farming that was a bubble that was going to... The yield farming popped. It has dragged everything down a fair bit. I think we're at the early stages of the cycle. I think a lot of those best projects are going to make new all-time highs. Andreessen Horowitz released a crypto documentary. That was really, really cool. This is on YouTube if you want to check that out. We've seen MetaMask pass 1 million monthly active users. These are real numbers, guys. These aren't, dApps that are faking it with bots. This is real numbers, real adoption. We've got more and more of these fantastic mobile apps that are integrating all the games and all your DeFi and everything. They've got backups in case you lose your password and that. So everyone is trying to solve these problems, and I love it. Vitalik has spoken about how we are going to scale in the short term until we get to Ethereum 2.0. Look, it's very clear now that we've got optimistic rollups as the mainstay, and then a lot of other projects that I've covered. So here's a few of the upgrades and new look synths from Synthetic there. I love what they're doing. They're going to be first out. We've got X token. They've re-released their X tokens. So an X token is a token like, say, Synthetic's token, but it gives you the rewards if you're not a tech savvy person. So this, on the back end, it's basically staking those coins for you, or getting the rewards, or doing the governance votes. It's doing whatever you need to do to get the rewards, and that'll just sort of gets put into the price of the actual token. Just a normal ERC20 token that you can hold, you can send it to your ledger. It's doing the hard work for you. So love it. I just love that idea. It's very similar to what Yearn Finance did as well. Curve, another project that have announced that their starting their roadmap to layer 2 scaling with ZK Sync. So one by one, you're going to see all these top projects announce scaling. Raiden put out another big upgrade this week. So I had to play around with this. Connect your MetaMask, generate a key, port over whatever you want, ERC20 tokens into your Raiden network account and send those. So it's like the Ethereum Lightning Network, but with any ERC20 token. Some more data here, data-related projects. So this is Covalent. They closed a $3 million round, massively oversubscribed. We've seen the Graph, who are also doing that data and querying of all the blockchains. So when all the companies need to get that information from the blockchain, they use these services that kind of sort the data for them. They've done 7 billion queries, 80% monthly growth at the moment on Ethereum usage. So does that look like a bubble that popped back in August and is going down? No, not at all. Price is down here because we had too much overvaluated products. Real world fundamentals are heading up, guys. So that is why I remain super bullish. Now, obviously, we've got all the copycats. The fakes and the frauds are going to jump on board and basically just copy Ethereum or try and stay relevant. So be it. They might have some good projects, but just please do your research. I am really bullish on projects like Polkadot and Cosmos. I'm not bullish on Tron and these other ones that are just trying to make themselves relevant. Solana is probably in the middle ground there at the moment. Look, FTX have become very controversial lately in the crypto Twitter universe. So they're a big player. They're doing a lot of trading. Some people are arguing that they're almost too big to be, shorting some of these DeFi tokens. Being really, really active on some of these protocols that are almost like grassroots intended, and now a big exchange comes along with millions of dollars and can really bully the market around, almost like the whales do. So, hey, it's a free game, I guess. It's the Wild West. It is what it is. But this was an interesting thread from Alex Kruger pointing out the fact that even Project Serum, that's meant to be their decentralized protocol, is actually extremely centralized in terms of who holds the key. So, look, I've asked Sam from FTX to come on and do one of our nothing off limits, honest conversations to ask him what's been going on. Because, look, Yearn Finance is another one where Andre, there's these rumors that he's left the project. Some people say he's just taking a break. Then we saw Blue Kirby, who was the big advocate for this, sell all his coins, and then he launched a NFT project. Look, I think the figures were that he'd already raised a couple of $1 million, and then he actually backflipped just a few hours ago and said that he's handing that money back. So, look, tensions always rise when we have a bit of a correction, but I think it is a learning lesson. It's something I was very cautious about was when things were getting bubbly a few weeks ago, bad things were happening. So people threatening Andre, that's not what we want. But let's hope we can get on with the job. So he said he's still here, he's still building, and nothing's changed. But he's not happy about the threats he's been getting. I'm going to wrap this up soon. I've got a crying baby in the background. But look, Ethereum 2.0, we've had more progress there. Rocket Pool were blown away with how many people they got deposited in all their test nets. So that is hopefully very, 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 very close in terms of being able to do this with real ETH for those of you that want some rewards. So another ETH 2.0 spec released. I will do more tutorials on that and get Rocket Pool back on the show when it's ready for the actual mainnet. Barry Silbert. So look, I always wondered about why Ethereum Classic was still alive and why on earth Grayscale would have it in a trust when it keeps getting 51% attacked and they ran out of money, they had no devs. But the one thing that I told members a year or so ago is that wait for the Ethereum 2.0 to launch and you're going to see people with other interests create a narrative that something is bad or risky for Ethereum and that Ethereum Classic is a better, safer option. And this week we saw Grayscale, Barry Silbert come out and say, there's a lot of uncertainty around what this means for Ethereum and the trust with the SEC filing. So let's see what happens there. This could even be a little way that I might think about hedging my ETH holdings with some Ethereum Classic. Wrapped Bitcoin on Ethereum tops $1 billion. It's no wonder a few of the maxis are getting upset. Now, this was a controversial tweet from Pomp. I think he just does it to stir up and get engagement. But fantastic answer from Hayden Adams here, who I think this was a mic drop. But I'll let you guys pause and read through that thread if you want there. But it is amazing the amount of energy that these Bitcoin maxis put into discrediting Ethereum. And as I tweeted myself the other day, and Eric Voorhees has said here, it is just they've turned into the very bankers that they were trying to oppose in the early days. But I guess some people, like Pomp, have only been here since late 2017. So make of that what you will. Researchers debunking the stock to flow model. I've been really shocked at how quickly the Bitcoin maxi community have turned on Plan B. All of a sudden, someone doxed him. He's not as old as he was trying to make out he was. Maybe he didn't have the job that he said he has. So that toxicity, that anger and animosity, I just think we need to get rid of it. The crypto community needs to get rid of it. Long Bitcoin, short Bitcoin maximalist. That's what I say. Lightning Network vulnerability found, urgent upgrade required. If this was on Ethereum, the maxis would be all over Twitter, but you probably haven't heard about it because it's on Bitcoin and it's the Lightning Network. So very, very frustrating. Now, the big positive news to finish off, Square put 1% of their total assets in Bitcoin, $50 million. It's that 1% get off zero rule that I think they've done that deliberately rather than doing what MicroStrategy did and pouring in $500 million. Some other good news here, all those Mt. Gox coins, they won't be going to market and dumping anytime soon. That's going to be kicking that can down the road. And for every buyer, I guess there is a seller. And not the first time we've seen this. Really reputable, well-known people come out and announce they're selling all their holdings, just because. I think he's going to regret that decision big time. As I said at the start of the episode, this list has already grown since I made it yesterday. MicroStrategy with the big bucks, Grayscale, nearly 5 billion of coins, Galaxy Digital, now Square. I think that now that the snowball is gathering momentum down the mountain, this is going to be maybe 100 companies long in the next 12 months. Digital X in Australia, people that don't even know they've got $4 million worth of Bitcoins. So when we look at the weekly chart, guys, let's go full screen here. This was those play around scribbles I had a few weeks back when I said, I really think this green and blue is more likely than everyone that was kind of bearish here and wanting this triangle to break down or one more leg lower, wanting a nice easy entry at 6,000. Or a lot of the bears were arguing, remember, that we haven't made a new high yet on the weekly downtrend, so we're going back to 3,000 or 1,000, whatever it was. I don't buy into that at all. I think there's so much evidence now that we're in a bull market, come back, retest, we're pushing off again. I do think that unless the stock market, crumbles, nasty election, no stimulus, huge second and third waves of COVID, they're the sort of things where I'd be starting to look lower. I don't think that is likely. I think the most likely path here, as long as we can get this weekly close over 11,500 tomorrow, I think we're going to 14,000 pretty quickly. So a quick look at Ethereum. It has led in the past. I'm not really fussed whether or not it leads again this time, but just have a look how quickly last time we got up to that around 500, the pullback down to around 300, exactly where we have this time as well. And then in the next 4 weeks, we went to $1,500 Ethereum. So gold and silver, very similar. They are setting up nicely. A lot of these are at key resistance levels or thereabouts. It's all trading inverse to the US dollar, which looks like it has broken down. So this is what you need to watch. Probably the most important chart in crypto at the moment. That's going to determine what happens. But hey, I'm a bull. You guys know that I'm always a bull though. So look, head on over to our website. Please become a member if you want to get in before the new app goes live and that new pricing. Otherwise, I'll talk to you very, very soon. Smash that like button. Subscribe if you haven't already. Share these videos around. I'll see you very soon. Cheers, guys.